Welcome to the Deep Sleep Science channel. Tonight, we're going to drift gently through the quiet world of birds, their lives, their rhythms, and the subtle ways they move through the natural world around us. As you listen, there's nothing you need to do and nowhere you need to go. If you enjoy these peaceful journeys into science and nature, you can like, subscribe, or leave a comment before sleep finds you. Now, let your mind soften, and let's begin exploring together. Birds are animals with backbones that evolved feathers, a feature that links them to certain dinosaur ancestors, yet is fully developed in modern birds in a way no other. Feathers are not just decoration, they are part of what defines what a bird is. This single innovation supports flight in many species, but it also supports warmth, waterproofing, signaling, and camouflage. In a practical sense, feathers helped birds spread into almost every kind of habitat on Earth, from icy coastlines to hot deserts. Feathers are built from keratin, the same tough family of proteins found in human hair and nails, and they grow from follicles in a bird's skin like living structures. That means a bird's plumage is not a fixed coat for life, but something the body can renew and rebuild over time. A feather begins as a growing tissue supplied by blood and then becomes a lightweight, durable surface once fully formed. Because the feather is grown from the body, its quality depends on nutrition and health. And because it can be replaced, birds can recover from wear in a way that animals with permanent coverings cannot. Most birds replace worn feathers through a process called molt, because damaged feathers can reduce both insulation and flight performance. A feather that is frayed or broken may let heat escape, making it harder to stay warm, and it may also disrupt airflow, making flight less efficient. Molt is a normal cycle rather than a rare event, and it helps keep the body's outer layer functional. Birds do not typically repair feathers the way skin heals. Instead, they replace them. This is one reason feather maintenance and replacement are such constant themes in bird biology. Feather color can come from pigments or from tiny microscopic structures in the feather that bend and scatter light, creating what is called structural color. Pigments act like dyes, absorbing some wavelengths and reflecting others. Structural colors act more like optical engineering, where layers and patterns at very small scales shape the light that reaches your eyes. This is how some feathers can look intensely bright without using much pigment at all. In many species, both pigment and structure work together to create the final appearance. Some birds can perceive ultraviolet light, which means patterns that look subtle or even invisible to humans can stand out clearly to another bird. To us, a patch of feathers might look plain white, but in ultraviolet, it may have markings that function like clear signals. These signals can influence mate choice, species recognition, and social interactions. This ability also changes how birds interpret their environment, because ultraviolet reflections exist on feathers, flowers, and even the sky. It is a reminder that what a bird sees can be genuinely different from what humans experience. Many birds that are active during the day have 4 types of comb cells in their eyes, the condition called tetrachromacy, which expands color discrimination beyond. Humans usually have 3 cone types, so adding a 4th can increase the number of color differences that can be detected. This can help birds judge ripe fruit, recognize subtle plumage signals, and detect contrasts in natural landscapes. It also means that 2 birds can look very similar to people, yet look obviously different to each other. In the bird world, fine visual detail often carries important information. Birds produce sound using a syrinx, a specialized vocal organ located where the windpipe splits toward the lungs. Unlike the mammal voice box, the syrinx sits deeper in the airway system, and it can create a wide range of sounds with fine control. Small changes in tension, airflow, and tissue position can shift pitch and tone. This is why some birds can produce clear whistles, complex songs, or harsh calls using the same basic anatomy. The syrinx is one of the key biological tools behind the richness of bird communication. Vocal learning, meaning the ability to learn new sounds by listening and imitating, is rare in animals, but it appears in three major bird groups: songbirds, parrots. In these groups, young birds often practice and refine their sounds the way humans practice speech. Learning allows flexibility, making it possible to copy local patterns, adjust to changing environments, or develop new calls. This is not just making noise, it is a learned behavior supported by specialized brain pathways. It also explains why the soundscape of birds can vary so strongly between species and even between regions. Bird cognition can be highly advanced in some lineages, especially among corvids like crows and ravens and many parrots. These birds often solve problems, remember complex information, and adapt quickly when conditions change. Their intelligence shows up in daily survival tasks, such as finding food in difficult places or responding to social challenges. In many cases, they can learn from experience and from watching others. This kind of flexible thinking helps explain why these birds can thrive in a wide range of environments, including human-modified landscapes. New Caledonian crows are well known for tool manufacture, shaping sticks and other materials to extract food from places their beaks cannot easily reach. Tool use here is not accidental. The crow selects or modifies an object to perform a specific task. This behavior shows planning, precision, and an understanding of how shape relates to function. In the wild, it allows access to hidden insects and larvae that would otherwise remain protected. It is a clear example of how a bird can extend its abilities by using the environment as a set of tools. Goffin's cockatoos can solve novel tool tasks, showing that tool-like problem-solving is not limited to one famous tool-using family. When faced with a new challenge, these cockatoos can experiment with objects, learn what works, and repeat successful strategies. This matters because it highlights general intelligence rather than a single specialized instinct. In controlled settings, they have demonstrated flexible approaches to unfamiliar puzzles. It suggests that under the right ecological pressures, multiple bird groups can evolve impressive problem-solving abilities. Birds breathe with a respiratory system that can maintain largely one-way airflow through the lungs, unlike the in- and out tidal flow common in mammal lungs. This system helps keep fresh oxygen moving across the surfaces where gas exchange happens. Instead of mixing new air heavily with old air, birds can keep a steadier stream going through key passages. The result is a highly efficient way to supply oxygen. This efficiency supports the intense energy demands of flight and other high-activity lifestyles. Because birds can keep fresh air moving across their gas exchange surfaces during both inhalation and exhalation, their system is especially effective for high-key. In simple terms, oxygen can be delivered efficiently, even while the bird is working hard. This is one reason many birds can sustain long flights and remain active for extended periods. It also helps explain how some species can tolerate low oxygen environments at high elevations. The breathing design of birds is often treated as one of the most efficient in the vertebrate world. The alula is a small group of feathers on the thumb part of the wing that can help delay stall during slow flight and landing. When a bird slows down, airflow over the wing can become unstable, and lift can drop suddenly. The alula helps manage that risk by guiding airflow in a more controlled way. This allows a bird to land precisely, maneuver at low speeds, and fly through tight spaces. It is a small structure with a surprisingly large influence on flight control. Soaring birds often take advantage of rising air, such as thermals or ridge lift, to gain altitude with very little flapping. When warm air rises in columns, a bird can circle within it, and climb without spending much energy. Along cliffs or hills, wind pushing upward can create lift that supports long glides. Soaring is not just floating, it is active navigation through invisible patterns in moving air. This strategy allows some birds to travel great distances while conserving energy. Bird eggs are an adaptation for reproduction on land, combining a protective shell with internal membranes that manage gas exchange and water balance. The shell protects the developing embryo while still allowing oxygen to enter and carbon dioxide to leave. Inside, membranes and fluids provide a stable environment for growth and cushion the embryo against shocks. The egg is also a packaged source of nutrition, carefully allocated by the parent. This design allows birds to reproduce away from water while still supporting complex development. Birds have two broad hatchling strategies. Precocial chicks are relatively mobile soon after hatching, while altricial chicks hatch helpless and require. Precocial young often emerge with open eyes and down, ready to walk or swim, which suits ground nesting or open water lifestyles. Altricial young often hatch with limited mobility and rely on parents for warmth and frequent feeding, which can support rapid growth in a protected nest. Each strategy is a different solution to the same problem: how to raise a young bird safely to independence. These differences shape everything from nest type to parental behavior. Brood parasitism is a breeding strategy in which a bird lays its eggs in another species' nest, shifting incubation and chick-rearing costs onto the host. This creates a hidden conflict, because the host may invest time and food in a chick that is not genetically its own. For the parasite, it can be an efficient way to reproduce without building nests or feeding young directly. For the host, it creates strong pressure to recognize and reject foreign eggs, or to defend the nest more aggressively. Over time, this produces intense co-evolution between parasites and their hosts. Birds provide ecosystem services such as pest control by consuming insects and other invertebrates, often reducing the numbers of species that damage. In many environments, birds remove large quantities of caterpillars, beetles, and other plant eaters. This can reduce plant stress and help maintain healthier vegetation. It also means that changes in bird populations can have practical effects on landscapes people depend on. A bird's daily feeding can ripple outward into the balance of an entire local ecosystem. Seed dispersal by birds can shape forest composition because birds move seeds away from parent plants and into new places where they can sprout. When a bird eats fruit and later drops or passes the seed, it may land in soil conditions better suited for growth than the crowded area beneath the parent plant. This movement helps plants spread across landscapes and recover after disturbances. It also mixes plant communities, influencing which species dominate in different habitats. In this way, birds can act as living transport systems for future forests. Scavenging birds help remove carcasses and can reduce disease risk by limiting the time pathogens persist in dead animals. When carrion is left untouched, it can become a breeding ground for insects and microbes that spread illness. Scavengers speed up the cleanup process, returning nutrients to the ecosystem while removing a potential source of contamination. In many regions, this role is performed efficiently and quickly, sometimes within hours. Their work is quiet, but it supports health and stability across many food webs. Migration is common in birds and can range from short shifts in elevation to vast journeys across continents. Some birds move only from low valleys to nearby mountains as seasons change. Others cross oceans and deserts, traveling between breeding grounds and wintering areas that offer better food or safer conditions. Migration is not random wandering. It is often repeated with remarkable consistency from year to year. These movements connect distant ecosystems, linking places that may appear unrelated on a map. Many migratory birds use multiple navigation cues, including the sun, the stars, and the Earth's magnetic field. This makes navigation more reliable, because if one cue is hidden like the sun behind clouds, others may still work. Birds also integrate experience, landmarks, and timing, building a multi-layered system rather than relying on a single compass. This is especially important during long flights over featureless terrain like oceans. The end result is a navigation ability that can look almost impossible from a human perspective. Evidence suggests some birds have a light-dependent magnetic compass that interacts with visual processes in the retina. In this idea, certain light-sensitive chemical reactions may respond to the magnetic field, producing information the bird can use for direction. That means the magnetic compass may feel, in a sense, like part of seeing rather than a separate sense. It also helps explain why magnetic orientation can depend on light conditions. This kind of navigation is still an active area of research, but it shows how biology can build guidance systems from subtle physical cues. Stopover sites are critical for many migrants, especially small sunbirds that must refuel often by building fat reserves that power long flights. A stopover is not just a rest, it is a scheduled period of intense feeding to rebuild energy stores. Without safe places to feed and shelter, even strong flyers can fail to complete the journey. Many migrations are possible only because a chain of suitable habitats exists along the route. Protecting these sites can be just as important as protecting breeding or wintering grounds. Some migratory birds can sleep with half of the brain at a time, a pattern called unihemispheric sleep, which may help maintain vigilance while resting. With one hemisphere more alert, the bird may be better able to detect predators or stay aware of surroundings. This is useful for animals that must balance rest with safety, especially in exposed settings. It also illustrates how sleep can be flexible in the animal world, adapted to the demands of survival. Even rest can be shaped by ecology. Hummingbirds feed on nectar with tongues adapted to rapidly collect liquid, supporting extremely high metabolic rates. Nectar provides fast energy in the form of sugars, and hummingbirds burn that energy quickly to power hovering flight. Their feeding is often frequent and precise, visiting many flowers in a day. But nectar alone does not provide everything they need, so many also eat small insects for protein and nutrients. Their lifestyle shows how a tiny body can survive through specialized feeding and intense energy management. Many seabirds have salt-excreting glands that help them drink seawater while keeping internal salt levels stable. Because seawater is much saltier than body fluids, drinking it would be risky without a way to remove the extra salt. These glands concentrate salt and allow it to be expelled, often through the nostrils. This adaptation opens up ocean habitats that would otherwise be difficult to use. It is one reason seabirds can live far from fresh water and still maintain normal body chemistry. Penguins are among the most proficient diving seabirds, and emperor penguins have been documented diving beyond 500 meters in some records. At those depths, pressure is immense, light is limited, and the cold is intense. Yet emperor penguins can hunt in these conditions by using strong swimming muscles, streamlined bodies, and careful management of oxygen stores. Their dives are not reckless. They are timed and controlled, balancing the need for food with the limits of physiology. It is a striking example of how birds can master environments far beyond the air. Many birds use mobbing, where smaller birds cooperate to harass and drive away predators. A hawk or owl may be dangerous to one small bird, but a group calling loudly and diving at it can force it to leave. Mobbing also spreads information, alerting other birds that a threat is nearby. This is a shared defense strategy that relies on coordination rather than strength. It shows how social behavior can turn vulnerability into collective protection. The world's smallest bird is the bee hummingbird, only a few centimeters long, showing how far birds can miniaturize while remaining fully functional. At that size, maintaining body temperature and energy balance becomes a constant challenge. Tiny bodies lose heat quickly and must feed often to keep up. Even so, the bee hummingbird can fly, hover, and navigate complex habitats with precision. Its existence demonstrates how birds can push the limits of size while preserving the basic tools of bird life. The ostrich is among the largest living birds and is flightless, showing that birds can thrive without flight when conditions favor running and strong terrestrial movement. Without the need for flight, an ostrich can invest in powerful legs and the large body that supports speed and endurance on land. Flightlessness is not simply loss. It is often a trade-off where the body shifts resources toward a different strategy. In the right environment, that strategy can be extremely successful. Birds are not defined by flight alone, but by the broader set of traits that support survival. The peregrine falcon is famous for extremely fast hunting dives, where it drops from high altitude to strike prey mid-air. These dives are aided by aerodynamic body shape, strong control in flight, and rapid sensory tracking. Speed increases the force of impact and reduces a prey animal's chance to escape. The peregrine's hunting style is a blend of physics and biology, using gravity and precision together. It is one of the clearest examples of how specialized flight can become in birds. Some swifts can remain airborne for very long periods, using flight not only for travel but also for feeding and even resting. Life in the air can reduce exposure to certain ground-based predators and allow constant access to flying insects. To do this, swifts rely on efficient flight mechanics and behaviors that minimize energy waste. Their bodies and wings are adapted for sustained movement rather than frequent perching. It is a reminder that for some birds, the sky is not just a path, it is a living space. Albatrosses use a technique called dynamic soaring, extracting energy from differences in wind speed above the ocean surface to travel enormous distances. By repeatedly climbing into faster-moving air and gliding back down into slower air, an albatross can gain energy without constant flapping. This makes simians can cross large expanses of ocean while conserving muscle effort. Dynamic soaring depends on reading wind structure with precision, like navigating a moving landscape made of air. It is one of nature's most elegant solutions for long-range travel. Molting can temporarily reduce flight efficiency, and some waterfowl become flightless during wing feather replacement, relying on water for safety. When key flight feathers are shed and regrown, the bird may not be able to fly at all for a period. During that time, staying near water can provide escape routes and shelter. This creates a vulnerable window in the bird's yearly cycle, shaping when and where molt happens. It shows how even routine maintenance can influence habitat choice and daily behavior. Birds evolved from theropod dinosaurs, and many features of bird skeletons and body design reflect that deep ancestry. Over time, forelimbs changed into wings, body coverings changed into feathers, and balance and movement adapted for both ground and air. The transition was not a sudden leap, but a series of changes across many lineages. Fossils show mixtures of traits that bridge older and newer forms. Modern birds carry that history in their bones, muscles, and feathers. Flightlessness evolved independently many times in birds, often in places where predators were scarce or where energy was better spent on running, swimming, or growing gar. When flight is less necessary for escape or for finding food, natural selection can favor reduced flight structures and stronger legs or other traits. This can happen especially on islands, where fewer predators may allow slower ground-based lifestyles. Over generations, wings may become smaller or take on new roles. The repeated evolution of flightlessness shows how flexible bird bodies can be. Penguins are a lineage that kept wings but transformed them into flippers for underwater movement, effectively flying through water instead of air. The wing bones and muscles remain, but the shape and stiffness are adapted for pushing against dense water. Penguins trade airborne flight for powerful swimming and diving ability. This change allows them to hunt fish and other prey in environments where many birds could not compete. It is a vivid example of how a familiar structure can be redirected toward a completely different kind of motion. Some birds are cooperative breeders, where individuals help raise chicks that are not their own, often improving survival for the whole group. Helpers may feed chicks, guard nests, or assist with defense against predators. This can be beneficial in environments where raising young is especially challenging, or where good nesting spots are limited. It can also help young helpers gain experience or increase the success of closely related family members. Cooperative breeding shows how bird reproduction can involve teamwork, not just a pair of parents. Lek breeding systems occur when males display together in communal areas and females choose among them, while male parental care is often minimal. In a lek, males may compete through song, movement, posture, or plumage displays, concentrating courtship in one location. Females visit, observe, and select mates based on these performances. Because males typically do not help with nesting or chick care, selection pressures can strongly shape display traits. This system highlights how sexual selection can sculpt bird behavior and appearance. Some owls have facial discs that funnel sound toward their ears, and many also have ear openings that are not perfectly symmetrical, improving sound keen. The facial disc acts like a natural sound collector, helping direct faint noises to the ears. Asymmetry helps the owl detect whether a sound is higher or lower in space, not just left or right. This supports hunting in darkness or thick vegetation where vision is limited. Owl hearing is an example of how small structural changes can create strong sensory advantages. Artificial lighting can disrupt migration by altering nighttime cues and drawing birds into dangerous corridors around cities and buildings. Many migrants travel at night and rely on natural light patterns from the sky. Bright artificial lights can confuse orientation, attract birds to urban centers, and increase the chance of exhaustion or collision. This effect can be especially intense during cloudy or foggy nights when light scatters widely. Reducing light pollution in key times and places can help lessen these risks for migrating birds. Window collisions are a major human-related hazard for birds because glass can reflect the sky or vegetation and appear like open space. A bird flying toward what looks like a clear route may strike the glass at full speed. This happens in cities and suburbs alike, especially where buildings reflect trees or where indoor lights shine out at night. Simple design changes and window treatments can make glass more visible to birds. The problem highlights how modern materials can create dangers that birds did not evolve to recognize. Habitat loss is one of the biggest drivers of bird population declines because birds depend on specific places to nest, feed, and rest across the year. When forests are cleared, wetlands drained, or grasslands converted, the physical structures birds need may disappear. Even if a bird can fly far, it cannot survive without suitable habitat patches in the right locations. Loss can also fragment remaining habitat, isolating populations. Protecting habitat often protects many species at once because so many depend on the same living landscapes. Climate change can shift the timing of insect emergence, which can create mismatches with breeding schedules for insect-feeding birds. Many birds time nesting so that chicks hatch when insects are most abundant. If warming causes insects to peak earlier, birds may miss that food window, leaving fewer resources for growing chicks. Even a small timing shift can reduce survival in sensitive species. This is one way climate affects birds not by direct heat stress, but by altering the calendar of the food web. Wetland birds often reflect water quality and hydrology because their prey and nesting conditions depend on stable aquatic systems. Changes in water level can flood nests or dry out feeding areas. Pollution can reduce the insects, fish, and plants that birds rely on. Because wetlands shift quickly in response to water and nutrient changes, birds living there can show rapid responses as well. Watching wetland bird communities can provide clues about the health of the wetland itself. Bird banding and tracking technologies reveal migration routes and survival rates, helping scientists understand where birds go and which stages of life are. A small leg band can identify an individual when it is found again, providing data across years. Modern tags and tracking devices can map movements in far greater detail, showing stopovers, timing, and route choices. These tools turn hidden journeys into measurable patterns. The knowledge can guide conservation, because protecting the right places depends on knowing how birds actually use the landscape. Citizen science bird observations can contribute large datasets that help map distributions, migration timing, and changes over many years. When many people record what they see and hear, small observations add up into broad coverage across regions. These datasets can capture early arrival dates, range expansions, and unusual population changes. They also help reveal long-term trends that would be hard for small research teams to track alone. In this way, ordinary birdwatching can become a powerful source of ecological information. V-formations in large birds can reduce flight costs because individuals can position themselves to benefit from upwash created by the wingtip. This aerodynamic effect can lower energy use, especially over long distances. Birds also rotate positions in some formations, sharing the more demanding lead role. Formation flight is not only a visual pattern, it can be an energy strategy shaped by physics. It shows how group movement can improve efficiency, not just safety. Birds can enter torpor in some groups, meaning they temporarily lower body temperature and metabolism to conserve energy during cold nights or food. Torpor is not simple sleep. It is a controlled physiological state that reduces energy loss. This can be especially important for small birds that burn energy quickly. When conditions improve, the bird returns to normal activity. Torpor demonstrates how birds can adjust internal processes to survive environmental stress without constant feeding. Invasive predators on islands have caused severe declines in some ground-nesting birds, especially those that evolved without mammalian predators. Birds that nest on the ground may have few defenses against introduced cats, rats, or other predators. Because island species often have small ranges and limited populations, losses can be rapid and hard to reverse. Conservation can involve predator control, habitat protection, and careful management of nesting sites. These situations show how delicate island ecosystems can be when new predators arrive. Bird intelligence research shows that complex behavior is not explained only by large brain size, because brain organization and neuron density can. Birds can have different neural layouts than mammals, yet still achieve impressive cognition. In some lineages, high neuron densities and efficient circuitry support advanced learning and problem solving. This reminds us that intelligence can evolve through multiple anatomical pathways. It also shows why comparing cognition across groups requires looking beyond simple measurements. Birds' ecological roles such as pollination, seed dispersal, scavenging, and pest control connect bird conservation to ecosystem stability. When birds disappear, these services can weaken, altering plant regeneration, insect populations, and nutrient recycling. Healthy bird communities can support healthier forests, farms, and wetlands. Conservation is not only about protecting beauty, it is about protecting functioning systems. Birds often act as visible threads holding together many quiet processes in nature. Across anatomy, behavior, cognition, and ecology, birds show how one vertebrate group can diversify into thousands of specialized solutions for POW. Some focus on soaring, some on diving, some on singing, and some on running. Yet all share the core traits that define birds. Diversity is expressed in beak shapes, wing designs, nesting strategies, and social systems. This variety is part of what makes birds so widespread and resilient. And it also means that learning about birds is, in a way, learning about many different ways life can solve the same basic challenges. Birds have air sacs that act like bellows, gently moving air through the lung system rather than performing the main gas exchange themselves. These sacs expand and contract in coordination with breathing, helping push air through the lungs in a steady flow. This design keeps fresh air circulating even while the bird exhales, which is very different from how mammal lungs work. Because the air sacs extend into parts of the body cavity, they also influence posture and internal space. Their presence contributes to both breathing efficiency and overall body function. Gas exchange in birds occurs in specialized lung structures known as parabronchi and fine air capillaries, where oxygen passes into the blood and carbon B. These structures are arranged so that air and blood move in patterns that maximize contact between them. This helps extract oxygen very effectively from each breath. Efficient exchange is important because flight demands constant, reliable energy. Even small inefficiencies could make sustained flying far more difficult. The continuous movement of fresh air across exchange surfaces during both inhalation and exhalation supports extremely high metabolic demands. Birds can remain active for long periods, and many species burn energy at remarkable rates during flight. This breathing efficiency ensures that oxygen keeps arriving even during intense activity. It also reduces the buildup of carbon dioxide that could interfere with muscle function. The system shows how anatomy and energy needs are closely linked. Efficient oxygen delivery helps explain how many birds sustain long-duration flight and tolerate high elevations where oxygen levels are lower. In mountainous regions, thinner air would challenge many animals, yet birds can continue functioning effectively. Their respiratory system extracts oxygen with impressive precision. This capability allows them to cross mountain ranges or live at altitude. It demonstrates how structural efficiency translates into ecological freedom. Many flying birds possess a keeled sternum, a central breastbone ridge where powerful flight muscles attach. This structure anchors muscles that generate the force needed to flap wings. The larger and stronger the muscles, the more lift and thrust the bird can produce. Without a keel, strong flight would be far more difficult. The bone itself becomes a central platform supporting motion. Bird skeletons often contain fused and lightweight elements that increase rigidity while reducing overall mass, making flight control easier. Fusion strengthens key areas while reducing unnecessary joints that could weaken structure. Lightweight construction helps reduce the energy needed to stay airborne. Balance between strength and weight is essential for maneuverability. This skeletal architecture reflects precise evolutionary tuning for movement. Some bones are pneumatized, meaning they contain air-filled spaces connected to the respiratory system. These spaces reduce density without sacrificing strength. By integrating bone and breathing structures, birds maintain efficiency in multiple systems at once. Pneumatization helps lighten the body for flight, while contributing to airflow pathways. It is another example of integrated design across organ systems. Wing shape influences flight style, with long, narrow wings favoring efficient gliding and shorter, rounded wings improving maneuverability in dense habitats. Wing outlines alter airflow and energy use. A gliding wing reduces drag over distance, while a rounded wing allows quick direction changes. Different environments reward different shapes. This variation explains why birds living in forests look aerodynamically different from those over open seas. Wing loading, defined as body weight relative to wing area, affects takeoff, landing, and soaring efficiency. A bird with low wing loading spreads weight over larger surface area and can stay airborne with less effort. Higher wing loading often requires stronger flapping. This balance shapes flight behavior and habitat choice. Understanding wing loading helps explain why some birds glide effortlessly while others flap constantly. By raising the aluva, a bird creates a small slot at the wing's leading edge, improving lift at steeper angles during slower flight. This adjustment stabilizes airflow when speed drops. It allows landing on narrow perches or navigating tight spaces. The effect resembles certain engineered aerodynamic solutions. Small feather groups can have major aerodynamic influence. Many birds coordinate tail shape and wing position to steer, brake, and stabilize in turbulent air. The tail can fan outward or tilt to redirect airflow. This aids balance and precision during turns or descents. Flight is not only about wings, it is about full-body coordination. Such adjustments allow birds to move gracefully even in changing winds. Some species use intermittent flight, alternating flapping with gliding to balance speed and energy use. Continuous flapping is costly, so gliding phases can serve strength. This pattern adapts to environmental conditions and distance traveled. Birds manage effort in cycles rather than constant output. Such behavior reflects careful energy budgeting. Feathers are arranged in overlapping tracts, and flight feathers are specialized for producing lift and thrust. Their placement ensures coverage without unnecessary bulk. Arrangement matters for airflow and insulation. Not every feather serves the same role. Organization contributes as much as structure itself. Flight feathers must remain strong and precisely aligned because even slight asymmetry can disrupt aerodynamics. Damage may create drag or instability. Birds maintain alignment through preening and replacement. Consistency ensures predictable control during movement. Precision at small scale supports performance at large scales. Birds regulate body temperature through insulation, behavior, and physiological adjustments, with feathers acting as a flexible thermal layer. Insulation traps air close to the body. Behavior such as seeking shade or sun also plays a role. Internal systems adjust heat production. Thermal balance ensures survival in varied climates. Many species fluff feathers when cold to trap additional air, and sleek them down when overheated to release warmth. These subtle movements alter insulation thickness. The response is immediate and energy efficient. Temperature control happens through posture as well as metabolism. Feathers double as adjustable insulation. Some birds cool themselves through gular futtering, rapidly vibrating throat tissues to increase evaporative heat loss. This mechanism resembles panting but uses different anatomy. Increased evaporation removes heat from blood vessels nearby. It provides relief without heavy water loss. Cooling behaviors vary across species but serve similar goals. Bird eggs are a terrestrial reproductive adaptation, combining protective shells with membranes that regulate gas and moisture exchange. They allow development away from water. Membranes cushion and supply oxygen. Shell strength protects yet permits airflow. Eggs package life support into a compact structure. Egg size and composition reflect life history strategies, with larger eggs containing more resources for developing hatchlings. Energy investment before hatching influences survival after emergence. Larger eggs often produce more developed young. Trade-offs exist between number and size. Allocation decisions shape reproductive success. Incubation behavior maintains proper embryo temperature, with parents adjusting posture to distribute warmth evenly. Turning eggs prevents uneven heating. Timing of incubation shifts according to weather. Continuous care ensures steady development. Small changes in temperature can strongly affect outcomes. Some species share incubation duties, while others assign the task mainly to one sex. Cooperation can balance energy demands. Specialization may reflect ecological or social structure. Division of labor affects survival chances. Parenting roles vary widely among birds. Precocial chicks hatch mobile and aware, enabling them to follow parents soon after emergence. Mobility reduces vulnerability in exposed habitats. Down feathers offer early warmth. Parents guide rather than constantly feed. Early independence shapes growth patterns. Altricial chicks develop rapidly after hatching due to intensive parental feeding and protection. They rely on nests for warmth and food. Frequent feeding accelerates growth. Development continues outside the egg. High parental investment supports later independence. Many passerines are altricial, allowing parents to influence chick development post-hatching and potentially raise multiple broods. This strategy supports flexible timing. Rapid reproduction suits variable environments. Investment shifts from egg to care. It reflects a different balance of risk and reward. Nest architecture varies widely, from simple ground scrapes to elaborate woven structures, depending on risk and climate. Each form solves local challenges. Materials and placement protect eggs. Structural complexity reflects environmental pressures. Nests reveal behavioral adaptation. Some birds incorporate unusual materials into nests, including spider silk, plant fibers, mud, or synthetic debris. Material choice depends on availability and function. Silk adds flexibility. Mud adds rigidity. Even artificial materials may serve structural roles. Nest building adapts to surroundings. The common cuckoo exemplifies brood parasitism by using host nests and specializing on certain species. Its eggs may resemble host eggs. Timing ensures successful placement. Host parents raise unrelated young. Interaction shapes evolutionary change. Hosts evolve defenses such as recognizing foreign eggs or guarding nests more aggressively. Recognition reduces exploitation. Defense behaviors escalate conflict. Selection pressures act on both sides. Adaptation and counter-adaptation continue over generations. Brood parasites develop counter-strategies including egg mimicry or stealth laying. Mimicry hides differences. Stealth avoids detection. Competitive escalation forms evolutionary arms races. Dynamic interaction shapes both lineages. Some parasites gain advantage by retaining eggs longer internally, so embryos begin development earlier. Earlier hatching increases competitiveness. Timing provides leverage. Development stage affects survival. Physiological control shapes outcome. Earlier hatching lets parasite chicks monopolize food resources from host parents. Larger size yields feeding priority. Sibling competition favors early birds. Host young may receive less nourishment. Resource access determines growth. Only a small fraction of species practice obligate interspecific brood parasitism, despite multiple independent origins. Strategy success depends on ecological context. Costs and benefits vary. Evolution does not favor one universal path. Diversity persists in breeding strategies. Conspecific brood parasitism involves laying eggs in nests of the same species, especially in dense colonies. Crowding facilitates opportunity. Hosts may struggle to distinguish eggs. Population density influences behavior. Strategy modifies parental investment. Colonial nesting reduces predation risk through collective vigilance, but increases competition for space. Many eyes detect danger. Crowding intensifies resource use. Trade-offs balance safety and competition. Social living alters survival dynamics. Dense seabird colonies deposit guano that enriches surrounding soil and vegetation. Nutrient transfer links ocean and land. Plant growth may respond strongly. Bird presence reshapes habitat. Colonies influence ecological productivity. Some plants rely on bird pollination, meaning declines in bird populations can reduce plant reproductive success. Pollination transfers pollen efficiently. Loss of pollinators interrupts cycles. Ecosystem interdependence becomes visible. Birds support plant continuity. Birds act as ecosystem engineers by altering habitats through nesting and structural activity. Their constructions create niches. Other organisms benefit indirectly. Habitat complexity increases. Engineering extends ecological impact. Woodpecker cavities later shelter many animals, including birds and mammals. Excavation opens habitat options. Secondary users depend on these spaces. Single actions support community networks. Shelter creation spreads benefits. Seabirds transport marine nutrients inland through feeding and nesting activities. Nutrient flow bridges ecosystems. Coastal plants absorb these inputs. Energy transfers across boundaries. Birds link sea and land cycles. In some regions, birds regulate rodent populations through predation, influencing agriculture. Predator-prey relationships stabilize numbers. Reduced rodents protect crops. Food webs interact with human economy. Ecological balance affects livelihoods. Declines in bird populations weaken ecosystem services, potentially increasing pest pressures and reducing resilience. Fewer predators mean more prey outbreaks. Reduced dispersal affects plant growth. System stability shifts. Conservation connects directly to function. Many birds replace worn feathers through molting because feathers can't truly heal once they are damaged. A cracked or frayed feather can leak heat, letting a bird get cold faster, and it can also disturb airflow, making flight less stable and more tiring. Molting is a planned biological reset where old feathers are shed and new ones grow in. Because feathers are essential tools for survival, most birds treat replacement as a regular part of life rather than an emergency measure. In many species, a major yearly molt, often called a complete annual molt, replaces most of the plumage over time rather than all at once. If a bird lost all its important feathers in one moment, it could become unable to fly or stay warm. Instead, many birds replace feathers in an organized sequence, so enough working feathers remain while new ones come in. This staggered process can take weeks or months depending on the species. It is a careful balance between renewal and staying functional every day. Molting is energetically expensive because feathers contain a large share of the protein a bird invests in its body. Growing new feathers requires amino acids and energy, and that cost can compete with other needs like staying warm or gathering food. During molt, many birds increase feeding to support feather growth. Some birds also appear less active or more cautious because they are spending resources rebuilding their outer layer. This is one reason feather replacement is timed so carefully. Many birds try to schedule molt so it does not overlap with other demanding seasons like breeding or long migrations. Raising chicks requires constant foraging and alertness, and migration demands intense energy and strong flight performance. If molt happened at the same time, the bird might struggle to do everything well. By separating these periods, birds reduce the risk of running out of energy. It is like spacing out major expenses so the body can keep up. A feather's flat surface, called the vane, is built from barbs and tiny barbules, but hooked together like a precise zipper. This structure makes a feather both lightweight and strong, which is exactly what a flying animal needs. When the hooks line up correctly, the feather forms a smooth surface that resists air and creates lift. If the hooks separate, the surface becomes rough, reducing aerodynamic efficiency. This is why birds spend so much time maintaining that structure. Down feathers are shaped differently from flight feathers and lack the strong interlocking hooks that create a smooth vane. Instead, down forms a soft, fluffy layer that traps air close to the skin. Trapped air is an excellent insulator, which helps birds keep a stable body temperature. Down is especially important for chicks and for birds living in cold environments. It is one of the quiet ways birds stay warm without constantly burning extra energy. Birds preen to align feather structures and keep the plumage working properly for insulation and flight. During preening, a bird runs its beak through feathers to straighten barbs and rehook barbules that have come loose. This keeps feathers smooth and functional, like maintaining the surface of a wing or the seal of a jacket. Preening also helps remove dust and parasites. It is a daily maintenance behavior that protects a bird's performance and comfort. Many birds spread oils from the uropygial or preen gland onto feathers during preening. The oil can help feathers resist water and stay flexible, especially in wet environments. It also supports feather condition by reducing brittleness and wear. In some cases, it may influence how feathers reflect light, subtly changing their appearance. This small gland plays an outsized role in keeping a bird's outer layer reliable. Melanins commonly create black, brown, and gray tones in feathers, and they can also strengthen feathers against wear. Melanin-rich feathers may resist abrasion and damage better than pale feathers. This can matter on wing edges and tips where the most stress occurs during flight. Melanin is not only about color, it is also about durability. A darker feather in the right place can be a practical advantage, not just a visual one. Carotenoids contribute reds, oranges, and yellows in plumage, and birds usually must obtain them through diet. That means bright carotenoid colors can reflect what a bird has been eating and how well it processes nutrients. If food quality is low, those colors may fade or become less intense. In many species, these pigments become part of social signaling and mate choice. Color can therefore connect directly to ecology, nutrition, and reproduction. Structural coloration can create iridescence, where color shifts with viewing angle due to nanoscale layering inside feather parts. Instead of relying on pigment alone, the feather's microscopic structure reflects and interferes with light like a natural prism. This is how a feather can look blue, green, or purple, even when it contains little blue pigment. The shimmer changes as the bird moves, making the signal dynamic and attention-grabbing. It's a physical effect created by tiny biological architecture. Some birds can detect polarized light, which is light that vibrates in a particular orientation rather than scattering randomly. Polarized light patterns exist in the sky, especially around sunrise and sunset, and they can offer directional information. For a bird traveling long distances, this can be one more dependable clue in a changing environment. Even when the sun itself is hidden, the polarized pattern can remain. This ability adds another layer to how birds interpret the world visually. Bird vision is often tuned for motion detection, distance judging, and rapid tracking, because flight and foraging depend on quick decisions. A bird in flight must judge speed, gaps, and obstacles constantly, sometimes at very high velocities. Many prey animals also move unpredictably, requiring fast tracking to catch them. This pressure shapes how the visual system prioritizes information. Birds often process movement and direction with impressive sensitivity. The size and placement of a bird's eyes are linked to lifestyle, because different lives demand different visual trade-offs. Predators often benefit from forward-facing vision that supports depth perception, while prey species may benefit from wide-side vision that reduces blind cow. Nocturnal birds often need adaptations that increase light sensitivity. Fast fires may prioritize stable tracking and fast processing. Eye placement is therefore not randomly reflects the kind of problems the bird solves every day. In many songbirds, the two sides of the syrinx can be controlled somewhat independently, allowing production of two pitches at once. This means a bird can sing a complex sound that contains more than one tone, creating richer songs. It also gives fine control over rapid changes in pitch and rhythm. This mechanical flexibility supports the incredible variety of songbird music. What sounds like a single voice to us may be produced by a more complex internal instrument. Vocal learning supports regional dialects in some species, where local groups develop distinct song patterns over time. Young birds often learn by listening to nearby adults, so the local style becomes a kind of cultural tradition. Dialects can help birds recognize neighbors, identify their own population, or find suitable mates who share the same song style. Over long periods, dialects can drift and change. Birdsong can therefore carry local history in sound. Birdsong is often used for territory defense and mate attraction, meaning it can function both as a warning to rivals and as a display of quality. A strong, consistent song can signal that the singer is healthy and present, discouraging intruders. At the same time, it can attract mates by showing stamina, skill, and experience. This double role means song is shaped by both competition and courtship. A single performance can influence survival and reproduction at once. Some non-vocal sounds also serve as signals, including wing whistles, tail feather trills, and other mechanical noises made during flight or display. These sounds can be useful when a clear visual signal is hard to see, such as in dense vegetation or at long distance. Mechanical sounds can also be more honest signals, because producing them may require specific feather shapes or strong flight performance. In some species, the sound is part of a ritual display. Communication can come from movement as much as from voice. Hummingbirds can produce audible tail or feather sounds during display dives, using airflow to vibrate feathers like a musical reed. In these dives, the bird reaches high speed, and the air pressure across specialized feathers creates a distinct tone. The sound can function like a signature, helping females recognize a species or an individual. It also adds intensity to a visual dive display. The bird turns air itself into part of its communication system. Some species synchronize calls in groups, creating chorus-like effects that can coordinate social behavior or confuse predators. When many individuals call together, it can be harder for a predator to pinpoint a single source. Synchrony can also strengthen social bonds and keep groups organized, especially in low light or dense habitats. Group calling can act like a shared signal that we are here together. This is communication at the level of the group rather than the individual. Many birds can recognize individual neighbors by voice, which can reduce conflict by separating familiar rivals from unknown intruders. A neighbor that stays within its own territory is often less of a threat than a stranger who might attempt takeover. By recognizing a known voice, birds can avoid unnecessary fights and save energy. This is sometimes called the deer-enemy effect in behavior research. It is a practical use of sound-based memory in daily survival. Parrots can mimic environmental sounds and sometimes human speech because their vocal control and learning abilities are unusually flexible. Mimicry is not just a trick, it reflects the parrot's capacity to copy complex sounds and adjust them. In the wild, this can include copying other birds or environmental noises, possibly to fit into social groups or communicate in new ways. In captivity, it can include copying human words. The key point is that their brains and vocal systems allow detailed imitation. Food-caching birds often have strong spatial memory, remembering many cache locations across changing seasons. A caching bird may hide food in many separate spots to reduce the risk of losing everything to theft or spoilage. Later, it must relocate those caches, sometimes after weeks. This requires precise memory of location and context. In cold seasons, this ability can directly support survival when fresh food becomes scarce. Some crows can combine tool elements to extend reach, showing innovative problem-solving in the wild. If a single stick is too short, combining or modifying materials can make the tool more effective. This behavior suggests the bird can understand how parts can work together toward a goal. It also shows flexibility rather than a fixed routine. Innovation like this is most visible when food is hard to access and creative solutions bring a reward. Studies suggest some corvids can track what others have seen or might want, supporting advanced social decision-making. In practical terms, this can mean a bird behaves differently when it knows another bird is watching. It may hide food more carefully, move it later, or choose a different strategy to reduce theft. Such behavior depends on paying attention to other individuals' perspective and motivation. Social intelligence can be as important as physical skill when resources are contested. Social learning is widespread in birds, with many species learning new foraging techniques by watching others rather than discovering everything alone. If one bird figures out a useful trick like opening a new food source, others can copy it. This speeds up adaptation, especially in changing environments. It also creates local traditions in feeding behaviors, similar to cultural patterns. Learning from others reduces risk and saves energy. Play behavior has been documented in several bird groups, including parrots and some songbirds, and can involve objects or social interaction. Play often looks like practice without an immediate survival goal, such as tossing items, chasing, or experimenting with movements. It can build coordination, curiosity, and problem-solving skill. In social species, play may also strengthen relationships and communication. It shows that bird behavior can include exploration and learning beyond basic needs. Some birds use deceptive tactics, such as hiding food behind barriers, to reduce theft by competitors. This can involve choosing a hiding spot that blocks the view of another bird, or delaying the act of caching until the competitor is distracted. Deception, in this sense, is a strategy for protecting resources. It becomes especially valuable in social groups where individuals frequently observe each other. The behavior demonstrates that competition can shape complex decision-making. Bird brain organization differs from mammal brain organization, yet birds can still achieve impressive cognitive outcomes through different neural B. The layout of structures and pathways is not the same as in mammals, but the functions learning, memory, problem-solving can still be strong. In many birds, high neuron density and efficient connectivity support fast processing. This means intelligence can emerge through multiple biological designs. It is a reminder that the brain has more than one successful blueprint. Some species practice anting, rubbing ants on feathers, a behavior thought to relate to parasite control or feather maintenance. Ants can release chemicals like formic acid, and birds may use these chemicals to discourage parasites or reduce microbial growth. Anting can also help with feather comfort by altering oils and debris. While the exact function can vary and is still studied, the behavior is widespread enough to be considered meaningful. It shows birds using the environment as part of body care. Feather maintenance is a constant trade-off because keeping feathers clean and aligned improves flight and insulation but takes time away from feeding. Every minute spent preening is a minute not spent searching for food or watching for threats. Yet neglecting feathers can lead to worse flight control, greater heat loss, or higher parasite loads. Birds therefore balance maintenance with other priorities. This is one reason preening often happens during safer moments, like resting periods. Camouflage can rely on disruptive patterns where bars, spots, and speckles break up body outlines and make the bird harder to detect. Instead of trying to match one exact background color, the bird's pattern creates visual confusion. Predators may struggle to recognize the bird as a distinct object. This is especially useful for ground nesters and birds that rest in leaf litter or reeds. Patterning becomes a form of protection through visual illusion. Some birds use mimicry to reduce aggression, such as imitating calls of dominant species or even predators. By sounding like a threat or a powerful neighbor, a bird may discourage harassment or gain access to resources. Mimicry can also confuse competitors, making it harder to interpret who is present. This strategy depends on other animals responding strongly to specific sounds. Sound mimicry can therefore function like social camouflage. Alarm calls can encode different threats, and flock members may respond differently depending on what kind of predator is nearby. A call that signals an aerial predator might trigger quick cover seeking, while a call for a ground predator might trigger mobbing or flight to higher branches. This means calls are not always simple danger signals, they can carry useful details. Birds that learn these patterns respond more effectively and survive better. Communication becomes a shared early warning system. Mixed species flocks can improve foraging efficiency by sharing vigilance, while different species exploit different feeding niches. When multiple species feed together, each can pay slightly less attention to predators because others are also watching. At the same time, different birds may look for food in different microhabitats, reducing direct competition. These flocks can move like traveling communities through forests or shrublands. Cooperation emerges even without close genetic ties, because the benefits are practical. Some birds display eclipse plumage, where males temporarily molt into duller colors outside the breeding season. Bright colors can attract mates, but they can also attract predators. When breeding is over, a male may benefit from being less conspicuous. Eclipse plumage reduces visibility while the bird focuses on feeding, recovery, and survival. Later, breeding colors return when signaling becomes important again. Seasonal plumage can change through partial molts that emphasize signaling during courtship. Instead of replacing every feather, a bird may replace just enough to shift appearance where it matters most, such as head, chest, or wing patches. These changes can make a bird look dramatically different between seasons. Seasonal signals help coordinate mating and territory behavior. Plumage becomes a calendar-based communication tool. Some species show biannual molt schedules, balancing featherwear with breeding display needs. A second molt can refresh feathers that degrade quickly, especially in harsh climates or during long migrations. It can also help maintain bright display plumage for courtship periods, but adding another molt increases energy costs, so it only evolves when benefits outweigh the expense. This schedule reflects a careful trade between appearance, function, and resources. Featherwear can be driven by ultraviolet exposure, abrasion, and parasite damage, creating selection pressure on molt timing. Sunlight can weaken structures over time, especially in exposed habitats. Physical abrasion from vegetation, sand, or repeated flight also breaks down feather edges. Parasites and microbes can add additional damage. Because wear accumulates, Birds that time molt well can maintain better flight and insulation through the year. Many birds host feather mites, and some mites may be neutral or even helpful by consuming fungi and debris, while others can be harmful. Not all feather mites are automatically bad in the way people imagine parasites. Some may act more like cleaners, living on feathers while feeding on materials that would otherwise build up. However, heli infestations or certain species can damage feathers or irritate the skin. The relationship varies by mite type and bird condition. Feathers can also harbor bacteria, and preening plus the chemistry of preen oils can influence which microbes persist. The surface of a feather is a habitat, and microbes can grow there depending on moisture, oil, and temperature. Preening physically removes debris while also spreading oils that may discourage certain bacteria. This can affect feather condition and smell. Microbiology becomes part of what feather maintenance really means. Some birds use cosmetic coloration by applying secretions or pigments during preening, which can alter feather appearance. This is different from pigment grown into the feather during molt. Instead, the bird changes how feathers look by adding a coating or substance on top. The effect can influence how bright or even how evenly colored the bird appears. In social contexts, that subtle change may affect signaling and attractiveness. Greater flamingos are known to apply secretions from the uropygial gland to feathers as part of coloration behavior. This can enhance the visible color and create a more uniform, maintained look. Flamingos are social birds where appearance can matter for interactions and breeding. The act of applying secretions can therefore function as both maintenance and display enhancement. It shows how behavior can directly shape visual signaling. Because molting can increase vulnerability, many birds choose safer habitats or reduce risky movements while actively replacing feathers. When feathers are growing, they can be sensitive, and when key feathers are missing, flight performance can drop. Birds may stay closer to cover, avoid long flights, or choose areas with fewer predators. Even if the change is subtle, it can improve survival during a costly period. Molt is not just a biological process, it changes daily decisions. Bird beaks are diverse and can evolve rapidly under dietary pressures, often reflecting changes in local food availability. A beak is a tool for gathering, processing, and selecting food. Small shifts in shape can make a big difference in what a bird can eat efficiently. Over many generations, these pressures can produce very different beaks, even among closely related species. Beak diversity is one of the clearest links between ecology and anatomy. Many birds have a crop, an expandable pouch in the throat area that stores food temporarily. This allows a bird to feed quickly when food is available, then move to a safer place to digest. It can be especially useful in risky environments where feeding in the open is dangerous. In some species, the crop also supports feeding chicks by allowing food to be carried back to the nest. Storage becomes part of survival strategy. The gizzard is a muscular stomach chamber in many birds that grinds food, often with the help of swallowed grit or stones. Because birds do not chew with teeth, the gizzard performs heavy mechanical work. Hard seeds, fibrous plant parts, and tough insects can be broken down more effectively with grinding. Grit acts like grinding media, improving efficiency. This internal mill helps birds extract nutrition from foods that would otherwise be difficult to digest. Many seed-eating birds rely heavily on the gizzard's grinding because seeds can be tough and protected by hard coats. The seed coat is designed to survive, so breaking it open is necessary to access energy inside. The gizzard's strength and its use of grit allow birds to use seed-rich environments effectively. This is why some birds can thrive on foods that look small or simple that require strong processing. Digestion is as important as finding food. Many birds have long legs and specialized tendons that allow them to stand steadily in shallow water while feeding. The structure of their legs supports balance on soft or uneven ground, and tendons can lock in ways that reduce muscular effort. This means a bird can stand for long periods without tiring quickly. Stable posture helps them watch for prey or probe the water with precision. Such anatomy reflects how physical form adapts to feeding strategy. Wading birds often feed using either touch or sight, depending on their environment and bill design. Some slowly sweep their bills through water or mud to detect small animals by contact, while others visually target prey and strike quickly. Their success depends on patience and sensitivity rather than speed alone. Feeding styles can shift as water clarity or light changes. This flexibility helps them exploit a range of shallow habitats. Ducks and certain other birds filter feed with structures called lamellae along the edges of their bills. These fine comb-like ridges strain tiny food particles from water or mud when the bird closes its bill and pushes fluid out. The process resembles natural sieving. Filter feeding allows access to food that would otherwise be too small to gather individually. It demonstrates how feeding tools evolve to capture specific resources. Many nectar-feeding birds also consume insects, especially when raising chicks that require protein for growth. Nectar supplies quick energy but lacks certain nutrients needed for development. By adding insects to the diet, parents provide essential building blocks for tissues and feathers. This dietary shift often happens seasonally. It shows that feeding behavior can adjust to meet changing biological demands. Some seabirds locate food by following odor cues associated with ocean productivity. Chemical compounds released by plankton or feeding activity can indicate rich areas where prey gathers. Detecting these cues allows birds to travel directly toward likely feeding zones. This sensory strategy reduces wasted searching time. Smell becomes part of navigating a three-dimensional marine environment. Diving birds regulate heart rate and blood flow to manage oxygen use during underwater foraging. By slowing the heartbeat and directing oxygen to critical organs, they extend the time they can remain submerged. This physiological adjustment helps them capture prey at depth. It also protects sensitive tissues from oxygen shortage. Diving success relies on internal control as much as muscle strength. Many birds exhibit countershading, appearing darker above and lighter below, which reduces visibility to observers above or below. From above, the darker back blends with ground or water shadows. From below, the lighter underside matches bright sky. This pattern confuses depth perception for predators or prey. Countershading works across many lighting conditions. It is a widespread form of visual concealment. Harmless birds sometimes resemble more dangerous species in appearance or behavior, producing effects similar to Batesian mimicry. A predator that has learned to avoid a dangerous species may hesitate when seeing a lookalike. This hesitation can provide survival advantage. Mimicry depends on shared environments where the model species is known. It shows how visual similarity can shape ecological interactions. The bee hummingbird represents extreme small size among birds, maintaining flight and metabolism despite weighing only a few grams. Such small bodies lose heat quickly and require frequent feeding. The bird must balance constant energy intake with delicate control in flight. Its physiology pushes limits of miniaturization. Tiny scale does not prevent full participation in avian life processes. Large, flightless birds such as ostriches illustrate that strong running and terrestrial adaptation can replace flight when ecological conditions allow. Their bodies invest in leg muscle rather than wing power. This allows high speed across open terrain. Flightlessness emerges when survival does not depend on aerial escape. It demonstrates alternative evolutionary pathways within birds. Extremely fast diving speeds during hunting by peregrine falcons involve careful body positioning and aerodynamic shaping. The bird tucks wings and aligns feathers to reduce drag. Vision tracks moving prey below. The dive converts height into velocity. This specialized behavior integrates physics and biology in hunting strategy. Some swifts remain airborne for extended periods, feeding and drinking while flying. Their wings and metabolism support sustained movement. Continuous flight avoids ground-based dangers. They gather insects mid-air and drink by skimming water surfaces. Airborne life reflects adaptation to open aerial niches. Albatross dynamics soaring extracts energy from wind gradients by moving between air layers of different speeds. Climbing and descending through these gradients generates forward motion. This reduces need for flapping. It enables crossing vast oceans with minimal effort. The strategy relies on understanding wind structure instinctively. Fridded birds possess wings adapted for soaring, yet cannot easily land on water due to feather properties and body shape. Their long wings allow efficient gliding. Limited water contact ability shapes feeding habits. They often take food in flight or from other birds. Wing design constrains lifestyle choices. Specialized bills for cracking seeds combine strong jaw muscles with reinforced skull structure. Force is applied precisely to break tough shells. These mechanical adaptations allow access to calorie-rich food sources. Bill strength often correlates with diet type. Anatomy directly reflects feeding requirements. Crossbills use uniquely crossed mandibles to pry open conifer cones and extract seeds. The crossing shape provides leverage within narrow cone gaps. This specialization allows efficient feeding where others cannot compete. It represents adaptation to a particular ecological niche. Bill geometry guides dietary opportunity. Shorebirds with sensitive bill tips detect prey movement within sediment through touch receptors. This allows feeding even when prey is hidden from sight. Sensory precision improves success in murky environments. The bill acts as both tool and sensor. Detection capability shapes foraging efficiency. Flamingo feeding relies on head-down filter mechanisms adapted for saline or alkaline waters. Specialized bill structures trap tiny organisms from the water column. Feeding posture supports efficient filtration. Environmental chemistry influences feeding success. Their anatomy suits unusual habitats. Some birds shift into eclipse plumage outside breeding seasons, reducing visibility while conserving resources. Duller coloration decreases predation risk. Seasonal changes reflect shifting priorities. Appearance becomes functional rather than decorative. Plumage transitions mirror life cycle phases. Partial molts can produce seasonal plumage, emphasizing signaling traits during courtship. Only select feathers change to alter visual impression. This targeted renewal balances energy use. Display features gain prominence when needed. Molting patterns align with social timing. Biannual molt schedules address wear from sunlight, abrasion, or parasites. Replacing feathers twice ensures functionality. Additional molt demands more energy. Benefits appear where environmental stress is high. Timing reflects ecological pressure. Feather wear from ultraviolet radiation and abrasion gradually weakens structure and color. Continuous exposure accumulates damage. Molting restores effectiveness. Environmental intensity shapes maintenance frequency. Physical environment affects feather longevity. Feather mites may provide cleaning services by removing debris, though heavy infestations can harm hosts. Relationships vary between mutualism and parasitism. Bird health influences outcome. Small organisms share feather habitat. Microscale interactions affect macro condition. Preen oils influence bacterial communities living on feathers. Oil chemistry alters microbial growth conditions. Balanced microbiota help maintain feather quality. Preening distributes protective substances. Microbial ecology exists on plumage surfaces. Cosmetic coloration from applied pigments can alter feather appearance temporarily. Surface treatments enhance visual signals. These modifications require behavior rather than growth. Appearance shifts without structural change. Visual communication benefits from flexibility. Greater flamingos applying gland secretions to feathers illustrate deliberate appearance management. Secretions adjust hue or brightness. Social contexts reward maintained coloration. Behavioral grooming influences perception. Appearance maintenance forms part of interaction. Molting waterfowl temporarily lose flight ability and rely on aquatic refuge for protection. Vulnerability shapes habitat choice. Reduced mobility demands caution. Timing aligns with safer environments. Behavioral adaptation compensates for physical limits. Bird ancestry traces to theropod dinosaurs, linking skeletal features across deep time. Fossil evidence reveals gradual transitions. Structural similarities persist today. Evolutionary continuity explains modern form. Birds carry ancient design heritage. Early fossil birds displayed varied flight abilities, indicating experimentation in evolutionary history. Some forms glided or dove. Diversity existed early. Multiple solutions were explored. Fossil record shows adapted branching. Hesperornithiform diving birds show early aquatic specialization long before modern lineages. Their anatomy supported underwater pursuit. Evolution explored aquatic niches early. Flight capability sometimes diminished. Specialized adaptation appeared repeatedly. Flightlessness evolving independently many times demonstrates ecological influence on anatomy. Island isolation or predator absence reduces need for flight. Energy shifts toward other traits. Wing reduction follows. Evolution responds to environment. Penguin wings transforming into flippers illustrate structural repurposing for aquatic motion. Bone shape changes support swimming. Feathers adapt for water resistance. Underwater propulsion replaces aerial lift. Functional transformation maintains lineage identity. Reduced keel structures in flightless birds reflect decreased reliance on flight muscle attachment. Bone morphology tracks functional change. Energy allocation shifts. Skeleton adapts to new movement style. Anatomy mirrors lifestyle. Beak diversity evolves quickly under dietary selection, tracking available food sources. Environmental change reshapes morphology. Rapid adaptation possible. Functional match drives survival. Diet directs structural variation. Crops storing food allow birds to gather resources rapidly, then digest safely elsewhere. Storage buffers against predation risk. Feeding efficiency increases. Parental feeding may rely on stored food. Temporary holding aids survival. Gizzards grinding food with grit enable processing of tough material without teeth. Stones increase mechanical force. Digestive versatility improves. Nutrient extraction becomes efficient. Internal grinding substitutes chewing. Cooperative breeding spreads cheek-rearing effort across group members, improving offspring survival. Helpers contribute vigilance or feeding. Social structure strengthens success. Shared care distributes cost. Community involvement shapes reproduction. Pair bonding duration varies across species, from seasonal partnerships to long-term associations. Bond length influences cooperation. Mate stability affects parenting. Social dynamics differ widely. Relationship structure adapts to ecology. Courtship displays use ritual movement and sound to signal health or coordination. Performance communicates fitness. Visual and auditory elements combine. Observers interpret subtle cues. Selection acts through display success. Lekking concentrates male display in shared arenas where females evaluate options. Competition intensifies among males. Female choice directs reproduction. Parenting roles shift accordingly. Social structure organizes mating. Heavy investment in single offspring among some seabirds prioritizes survival over quantity. Resources focus on one chick. Extended care improves outcome. Strategy suits stable environments. Reproductive planning reflects conditions. Multiple broods per season among smaller birds maximize reproductive output when resources permit. Rapid cycles increase offspring number. Timing responds to food abundance. Parents manage sequential care. Quantity strategy contrasts with investment strategy. Nest placement in protected sites reduces predation risk through concealment or inaccessibility. Location choice affects survival. Physical barriers deter threats. Habitat features guide selection. Strategic placement reflects experience. Feigning injury as decoy behavior draws predators away from vulnerable nests or chicks. Deception shifts attention. Parents risk exposure briefly. Strategy protects offspring. Behavioral sacrifice enhances survival. Clutch size adjustments reflect resource availability and parental capacity to feed chicks. Larger clutches require more effort. Smaller clutches improve individual condition. Decisions respond to environment. Flexibility increases reproductive success. Brooding warmth supports chicks unable to regulate temperature independently. Physical contact conserves heat. Development continues safely. Parental presence stabilizes environment. Care compensates for immaturity. Bird hearing sensitivity supports locating sounds accurately for communication or hunting. Fine timing detection aids direction finding. Acoustic awareness shapes survival. Sensory tuning matches ecological demands. Hearing complements vision. Owl ear asymmetry and facial discs enhance vertical sound localization in low light. Structure directs sound differently to each ear. Brain interprets timing differences. Precision improves hunting. Morphology supports sensory function. Smell plays larger roles than once assumed, assisting some birds in navigation or food detection. Olfactory capacity varies widely. Certain species rely heavily on scent. Perception expands environmental awareness. Sensory diversity broadens capability. Seabirds detecting odor plumes over oceans locate productive feeding regions without visual cues. Chemical trails guide travel. Efficiency improves search success. Olfactory mapping complements navigation. Smell aids survival. Bill-tip organs sensing touch enable water birds to locate prey hidden under sediment. Sensory cells detect vibration or pressure. Feeding becomes possible without sight. Adaptation suits murky environments. Touch guides capture. Taste buds fewer than in humans still influence food selection and toxin avoidance. Birds distinguish flavors at basic levels. Preference guides diet. Negative tastes discourage harmful intake. Sensory feedback protects health. Geophagy-eating mineral-rich soil may help bind toxins or supplement nutrients lacking in diet. Clay absorbs harmful compounds. Mineral intake improves balance. Behavior compensates dietary gaps. soil ingestion reflects adaptive feeding. Magnetic cues contribute not only directional guidance, but map-like positional awareness in some birds. Field intensity variations provide location hints. Integration enhances navigation accuracy. Sensory interpretation guides travel. Magnetic perception aids orientation. Magnetic navigation mechanisms likely involve complex light-dependent biochemical reactions. Specific molecules respond to magnetic influence. Neural processing interprets signals. Research continues to clarify pathways. Biology harnesses physical forces. Birds may prioritize navigation cues differently depending on environmental conditions such as cloud cover or time of day. Flexibility avoids reliance on single source. Cue hierarchy improves reliability. Behavioral adjustment maintains orientation. Decision-making adapts to context. Birds live in nearly every type of habitat on Earth, including deserts, forests, wetlands, mountains, grasslands, cities, and polar regions, showing this wide distribution is possible because different species specialize in different environmental challenges. Some tolerate extreme heat, others survive freezing cold, and some depend on water or trees. Adaptations in diet, behavior, and anatomy allow them to occupy such diverse settings. Their presence across so many habitats demonstrates how a single group of animals can evolve solutions suited to very different conditions. Island ecosystems often produce unique bird forms because geographic isolation reduces gene flow and exposes populations to unusual pach. Without frequent mixing with mainland populations, traits can shift more quickly in response to local food, climate, or predators. Sometimes birds lose flight, develop specialized beaks, or adopt new feeding roles. Isolation can therefore lead to distinctive species found nowhere else. These evolutionary pathways show how location alone can influence biological direction. Urban environments create new niches where some birds adapt to human structures, artificial light, and consistent food sources. Buildings provide nesting ledges, bridges offer sheltered spaces, and discarded food supplies easy calories. Species that tolerate noise and disturbance often flourish. At the same time, other species avoid cities entirely. Urban success depends on behavioral flexibility and learning capacity. Wind turbines can affect birds and bats through collision risk, though careful placement and design can reduce harm while supporting renewable energy production. Understanding migration routes helps minimize overlap with high-traffic flight paths. Technological adjustments like shutdowns during peak migration periods also reduce impact. Balancing energy needs with wildlife protection requires informed planning. This illustrates how human engineering interacts with animal movement. Some species shift geographic ranges toward cooler latitudes or higher elevations as climates warm, altering community composition in many. As temperatures change, suitable habitat conditions also move. Birds track these changes by relocating over generations. New interactions form among species meeting for the first time. These shifts demonstrate how climate influences ecological distribution patterns. Conservation efforts often focus on protecting breeding areas, wintering grounds, and migration corridors simultaneously, since all stages are. Losing any link in the chain can disrupt life cycles. Coordinated protection across regions maintains continuity. International cooperation is often required because birds cross borders freely. Conservation planning therefore reflects birds' wide-ranging lifestyles. Birds serve as environmental indicators because population changes can reveal shifts in habitat quality, pollution levels, or food web balance. A sudden decline may signal broader ecological trouble. Monitoring bird trends provides early warning signs. Their visibility and sensitivity make them useful biological gauges. Observing them offers insight into ecosystem health. Raptors can accumulate toxins through biomagnification, meaning pollutants concentrate as they move up the food chain. Eating contaminated prey exposes predators to higher chemical levels. Effects may include reproductive or health problems. Studying raptor condition helps detect environmental contamination. Their position at the top makes them effective monitors. Seabirds reflect ocean conditions because their breeding success and foraging patterns depend on fish distribution and productivity. When prey shifts location, birds must travel farther or feed chicks less effectively. This affects nesting outcomes. Observing seabird colonies provides clues about marine ecosystems. Their performance mirrors ocean dynamics. Long-lived bird species with low reproductive rates depend heavily on adult survival to maintain stable populations. Losing mature individuals has larger impact than losing a few chicks. Strategies emphasize longevity and care. Such species recover slowly from declines. Life history traits shape conservation priorities. Small songbirds often have shorter lifespans, but compensate with higher reproductive potential, allowing quicker recovery after poor seasons. Producing more offspring offsets environmental uncertainty. Flexibility supports resilience. Population fluctuations stabilize over time. Reproductive strategy balances risk differently. Satellite tracking and light-level geolocation devices reveal detailed migration routes once invisible to researchers. Data show stopover timing and distance traveled. Technology uncovers hidden journeys. Information guides protection measures. Scientific understanding grows through monitoring innovation. Acoustic monitoring surveys birds by recording soundscapes, especially where visual detection is difficult. Automated recording devices capture calls continuously. Analysis identifies species presence. This method expands observation capacity. Sound data complement traditional fieldwork. Birdwatchers contributing observations through citizen science platforms create extensive datasets covering large geographic areas. Collective participation increases coverage. Shared records reveal patterns. Volunteer involvement supports scientific progress. Community effort strengthens research. Fish hunting birds use diverse methods including plunge diving, underwater pursuit, or cooperative herding. Each method suits prey behavior. Specialized body forms support technique. Success depends on timing and precision. Feeding strategies diversify ecological roles. Plunge diving birds absorb impact forces with streamlined shapes and reinforced skull and neck structures. Entering water at speed requires structural resilience. Anatomy protects vital organs. Evolution balances force and safety. Adaptation enables dramatic feeding maneuvers. Insect-hunting birds catch prey mid-air using wide gapes and agile flight control. Mouth opening size aids capture. Maneuverability tracks moving targets. Aerial feeding demands coordination. Behavior suits fast-moving food sources. Aerial insectivores respond strongly to insect population changes, making them indicators of broader ecological shifts. Fewer insects reduce feeding success. Population changes follow. Monitoring these birds reveals insect trends. Predator response mirrors prey abundance. Herons and egrets often rely on patient stalking rather than pursuit, striking quickly once prey approaches. Stillness conserves energy. Precision replaces speed. Feeding style matches habitat. Behavior illustrates alternative hunting approaches. Woodpeckers withstand repeated impacts through specialized skull and neck anatomy that distributes force and protects the brain. Tissue structure absorbs vibration. Pecking remains safe despite repetition. Adaptation prevents injury. Mechanical resilience supports feeding. Birds of prey subdue targets using talons and hooked beaks instead of teeth. Talons grasp firmly. Beaks tear efficiently. These tools replace mammalian dentition. Hunting method reflects anatomy. Predator design suits aerial capture. Many seed eaters swallow seeds whole and rely on internal processing rather than chewing. Digestive specialization compensates for lack of teeth. Nutrients extracted effectively. Feeding remains efficient. Behavior aligns with anatomy. Some birds engage in mutualistic relationships with large mammals by removing parasites from skin. Birds gain food. Mammals gain relief. Interaction benefits both. Cooperation shapes ecological networks. Nectar-feeding birds influence plant evolution by favoring flower shapes matching their feeding structures and vision capabilities. Plants adapt coloration and form. Pollinator preference directs change. Mutual influence persists over generations. Interaction drives coevolution. Bright plumage often signals health because producing vivid color requires good nutrition and parasite resistance. Strong individuals display better colors. Signals inform mate choice. Appearance reflects condition. Visual cues communicate quality. Ultraviolet reflective feathers serve as signals detectable by birds, but not always visible to predators or humans. Hidden channels convey information. Communication occurs beyond human perception. Vision differences shape signaling systems. Light spectrum variation expands messaging. Sexual dimorphism appears when one sex shows more ornamentation, reflecting differing reproductive roles or selection pressures. Ornamented individuals attract mates. Energy investment differs. Visual contrast supports selection. Morphology expresses behavioral roles. Some species exhibit similar-looking sexes where shared nesting duties make camouflage valuable for both. Reduced ornamentation lowers risk. Cooperation replaces display. Appearance balances safety and partnership. Visual similarity serves survival. Territorial defense through song and display reduces physical conflict by signaling presence without direct fighting. Communication replaces confrontation. Boundaries maintained efficiently. Energy conserved. Behavioral signaling manages competition. Flocking during migration reduces navigation errors and predation risk through collective vigilance. Groups share information. Individuals benefit from coordination. Safety improves. Movement becomes cooperative. V-formation flight lowers energy cost by exploiting airflow patterns created by others' wings. Aerodynamics support efficiency. Leadership rotates. Shared benefit emerges. Structure improves endurance. Flocking also aids foraging by helping individuals locate food patches through observation of others. Information spreads visually. Efficiency increases. Group presence improves success. Cooperation enhances feeding. Bird vocal repertoires include distinct calls for contact, alarm, feeding, and courtship, allowing nuanced communication. Different signals serve different purposes. Recognition guides response. Vocal diversity expands interaction. Language-like complexity emerges. Some birds shift song frequency or timing in noisy environments to improve communication clarity. Adjustments compensate interference. Flexibility maintains message transmission. Urban conditions influence sound behavior. Communication adapts dynamically. Parasites like lice or ticks affect birds, and grooming behaviors like dust bathing reduce infestations. Dust absorbs oils and dislodges pests. Regular grooming protects health. Behavior manages biological threats. Hygiene becomes survival tool. Sunbathing with wings spread may reduce parasites and aid thermoregulation or vitamin processes. Exposure influences feather condition. Heat affects organisms on plumage. Behavioral posture yields physiological benefits. Simple actions carry multiple effects. Strong site fidelity leads many birds to return to the same breeding location each year if conditions remain favorable. Familiarity improves success. Memory guides travel. Stability supports reproduction. Attachment shapes movement. Nomadic species instead follow rainfall or food availability unpredictably rather than returning to fixed sites. Flexibility replaces loyalty. Movement tracks opportunity. Behavior responds to environment. Adaptation suits variable conditions. Eruptive migration occurs when resource availability changes drastically, prompting sudden population movement. Seed failures trigger relocation. Movement scale may vary yearly. Unpredictability characterizes behavior. Ecological fluctuation drives travel. Hybridization among closely related species sometimes produces fertile offspring, demonstrating incomplete reproductive separation. Genetic exchange occurs occasionally. Boundaries blur. Interaction influences evolution. Species distinctions remain dynamic. Hybrid zones persist where environmental factors maintain contact, yet keep species partially distinct. Conditions balance interaction and separation. Stability emerges regionally. Evolutionary processes continue. Geography shapes genetic mixing. Speciation can result from zone divergence, habitat specialization, or geographic barriers reducing gene flow. Isolation fosters difference. Behavioral change contributes. Over time, new species emerge. Evolution acts through multiple pathways. Gastrolith swallowing helps grind food within gizzards, especially when consuming tough plant material. Stones assist mechanical breakdown. Digestion improves. Behavior complements anatomy. Tool use occurs internally. Diet influences intestinal length, with plant-heavy diets requiring longer tracts than protein-based ones. Surface area affects absorption. Digestive efficiency varies. Anatomy matches nutrition type. Structure reflects feeding strategy. Large relative heart size in active flyers supports strong circulation delivering oxygen to muscles. Cardiovascular capacity fuels endurance. Efficient pumping maintains activity. Anatomy ensures sustained effort. Flight demands robust support. High metabolic rates require frequent feeding, especially in small birds losing heat quickly due to large surface area to volume ratios. Energy balance remains delicate. Frequent meals necessary. Physiology dictates behavior. Size shapes lifestyle. Food storage in caches or pouches reduces starvation risk during temporary scarcity. Planning ahead improves survival. Retrieval depends memory. Behavior anticipates shortage. Resource management reflects foresight. Corvid memory includes remembering food type and storage timing, retrieving items before spoilage occurs. Temporal awareness guides behavior. Adaptation protects resources. Cognitive ability ensures efficiency. Intelligence supports survival. Parrots manipulating objects with beaks and feet show flexible feeding and exploration capabilities. Dexterity aids problem-solving. Multi-limb coordination expands interaction. Behavior reflects curiosity. Physical control supports cognition. Some learning neural pathways inform scientific understanding of vocal skill development. Brain structures specialize in sequence learning. Research links bird and human communication studies. Comparative biology offers insight. Vocal complexity enriches neuroscience. Breeding timing often aligns with peak food availability, maximizing chick development success. Synchrony improves survival. Parents respond to seasonal cues. Timing strategy balances opportunity. Ecology influences reproduction. Flexible blaying schedules allow adjustment based on temperature or resource signals. Plasticity aids adaptation. Environmental awareness shapes decisions. Reproductive timing shifts yearly. Behavior reflects conditions. Migratory birds crossing national borders require international conservation cooperation for protection. Policies must align. Shared responsibility emerges. Habitat continuity matters. Wildlife ignores human boundaries. Protected wetlands provide essential feeding and resting stops for migrating waterbirds. Habitat preservation ensures energy recovery. Loss disrupts journeys. Conservation maintains pathways. Wetlands anchor migration networks. Forest fragmentation increases predation and parasitism for interior species by exposing edges. Habitat structure changes risk. Population success declines. Landscape configuration matters. Spatial patterns influence survival. Some birds thrive in fragmented landscapes using edges and open spaces effectively. Adaptability yields opportunity. Winners and losers emerge. Behavioral flexibility pays. Habitat change redistributes success. Specialized diets increase vulnerability to environmental change compared to generalist feeding strategies. Narrow options limit adaptation. Food loss impacts survival. Flexibility confers resilience. Specialization trades efficiency for risk. Captive breeding and reintroduction programs can help recover bird populations when wild numbers have gulped very low. But success depends on restoring prey. Raising birds in controlled conditions allows population numbers to increase, yet survival after release relies on suitable environments and learn it. Careful monitoring ensures that reintroduced individuals adapt. This approach combines biology, ecology, and long-term planning. Recovery is rarely instant, but can rebuild stability over time. Climate-driven changes in storm frequency and intensity can reduce breeding success for seabirds by destroying nests or limiting adult access to food. Severe weather can wash away eggs, flood nesting sites, or force adults to travel farther for prey. When feeding trips become longer, chicks may not receive enough nourishment. Over multiple seasons, this reduces population growth. Environmental patterns directly influence reproductive outcomes. Some birds live in highly social groups throughout the year, sharing information about predators, food sources, and safe resting locations. Social living increases awareness because multiple individuals contribute observation. Communication within the group maintains cohesion. Social bonds may also influence cooperation or learning. Community structure shapes daily life. Other species remain mostly solitary outside breeding seasons, interacting with others only when necessary. Solitary behavior reduces competition for resources and may limit disease transmission. Individuals rely more on personal vigilance. Interaction patterns differ widely among species. Social organization reflects ecological needs. Many birds gather at night in communal roosts, sometimes in very large numbers that provide warmth and safety. Close proximity conserves heat and reduces predation risk through shared awareness. Roosting locations may be reused repeatedly. Collective resting demonstrates group advantage. Night behavior differs from daytime activity. Communal roosting can also serve as an information center where unsuccessful individuals follow others to food sources discovered earlier. Observing departure direction provides clues about resource location. Knowledge spreads socially. Efficiency improves through observation. Information exchange becomes survival strategy. Some species possess highly specialized lifestyles, such as obligate scavengers, that depend almost entirely on carrion or brood parasites that never build prebie. Specialization narrows ecological role but improves efficiency in that niche. Success depends on stable availability of specific resources. Adaptation becomes extreme. Diversity of lifestyles enriches avian variety. Birds show lateralization, meaning one side of the brain may specialize in certain tasks, and individuals may display consistent foot preference when functional division improves processing efficiency. Behavioral tendencies appear predictable. Neurological organization shapes action. Even simple tasks reveal underlying structure. Flightless birds often compensate with powerful legs and efficient running ability, sometimes using strong kicks for defense. Muscular development replaces wing function. Speed aids escape. Defensive capability deters predators. Anatomy reallocates strength. Many birds swim using adaptations such as webbed feet, lobed toes, or wing propulsion depending on lineage. Water movement demands distinct structures. Propulsion differs by species. Aquatic life encourages diverse solutions. Locomotion reflects environment. Diving birds face challenges of pressure and buoyancy, managing these through body composition and air control strategies. Adjusting air volume reduces buoyancy. Dense bones improve descent. Physiological management ensures safe return. Underwater adaptation balances forces. Some species have extended breeding cycles and delayed maturity, slowing population recovery after losses. Late reproduction limits rapid growth. Longevity compensates somewhat. Conservation must account for timing. Life history influences resilience. Bird diversity exceeds 10,000 species, representing extensive variation in form and ecological role. Global distribution contributes to diversity. Evolutionary branching produced numerous adaptations. Each species fills distinct niches. Diversity underscores biological creativity. Passerines constitute a major portion of bird diversity, including many song-learning species with complex vocal behaviors. Their success stems from adaptability. Communication ability supports interaction. Widespread presence marks ecological importance. They illustrate diversification within a single lineage. Shorebirds often travel vast distances between breeding and wintering areas, depending on chains of wetlands for survival. Migration timing aligns with resource availability. Habitat continuity remains essential. Loss of stopovers threatens journeys. Movement spans continents. Seasonal movements of waterfowl often track freezing conditions and shifting aquatic food supplies. Ice formation pushes relocation. Availability of open water determines destination. Migration ensures feeding success. Environmental cycles drive travel. Some birds specialize in high-elevation flight and tolerate low oxygen levels through physiological adjustments. Enhanced oxygen extraction aids performance. Circulatory efficiency supports altitude. Behavioral adaptation complements anatomy. Extreme environments become accessible. Eggshell characteristics and nest microclimate management influence embryo development through ventilation and humidity control. Shell pores regulate gas flow. Nest materials affect insulation. Parental positioning adjusts conditions. Subtle environmental factors affect growth. Incubating parents adjust egg-turning frequency and nest attendance depending on weather and predator risk. Movement prevents uneven heating. Presence deters threats. Behavioral flexibility maintains stability. Kia adapts to circumstance. Brooding chicks under feathers after hatching protects them from cold or rain until they regulate temperature independently. Physical coverage preserves warmth. Shelter promotes survival. Gradual independence follows. Kia bridges developmental gaps. Nestlings stimulate feeding through vocal calls and gaping displays that signal hunger intensity. Parents respond to cues. Communication coordinates nourishment. Behavioral signaling ensures attention. Feedback loops sustain growth. Removal of fecal sacs from nests reduces parasite attraction and scent detection by predators. Cleanliness preserves safety. Waste management protects young. Behavioral sanitation prevents harm. Maintenance contributes to survival. Many birds display remarkable navigation accuracy, returning to specific breeding locations after long migrations. Memory and orientation cues combine. Consistency spans years. Site familiarity enhances success. Precision demonstrates sensory integration. Combining directional orientation with map-like spatial awareness improves route selection over time. Experience refines navigation. Learning accumulates across seasons. Accuracy strengthens. Cognitive mapping guides travel. Juveniles often follow inherited migration directions initially, refining routes through later experience and memory. Genetic programming provides starting point. Practice enhances precision. Learning integrates instinct. Development shapes movement. Night migration reduces overheating and predation risk while taking advantage of calmer air conditions. Cooler temperatures conserve energy. Darkness lowers visibility to predators. Stable air supports efficiency. Timing maximizes safety. Day migrants exploit thermals and landmarks, gliding when possible to conserve effort. Visual navigation assists orientation. Rising air currents provide lift. Movement integrates environmental cues. Energy expenditure decreases. Diet shifts during migration, such as increased fruit consumption, help build fat reserves rapidly. High-energy foods support endurance. Nutritional flexibility aids travel. Physiological storage prepares birds. Feeding changes reflect purpose. Stopover ecology research shows that loss of even one critical rest site can affect entire migratory populations. Habitat connectivity proves essential. Weak links disrupt chains. Protection requires comprehensive planning. Local loss causes global impact. Some migration routes follow coastlines or mountains that funnel travelers into concentrated pathways. Geography shapes movement. Natural corridors guide direction. Predictability emerges. Landforms influence behavior. Other species undertake direct crossings over oceans or deserts when energy calculations favor shorter routes. Risk balances reward. Fat reserves enable endurance. Strategic decision-making determines path. Efficiency motivates bold travel. Artificial light, magnetic disturbances, or heavy clouds can disrupt orientation, increasing navigational error. Environmental interference alters cues. Disorientation causes hazards. Sensory reliance reveals vulnerability. Human impact influences success. Birds can also act as seed predators, consuming seeds and affecting plant regeneration patterns. Feeding shapes vegetation. Destruction limits spread. Ecological interaction complexifies role. Birds influence plant dynamics both positively and negatively. Forgotten stored seeds may sprout, meaning caching behavior inadvertently plants forests over time. Memory limits spread seeds. Growth emerges from neglect. Ecosystem development benefits. Accident becomes ecological function. Selective predation on insects reshapes community composition, influencing plant damage rates indirectly. Target choice alters populations. Cascading effects appear. Plants respond. Food web interactions interconnect. Scavengers indirectly influence predator communities by removing carcasses that might sustain mammalian competitors. Resource removal alters competition. Ecological balance shifts. Feeding roles interact. Community structure adjusts. Some birds occupy top predator roles, regulating prey populations and maintaining ecosystem stability. Control prevents overpopulation. Balance supports biodiversity. Predatory presence influences behavior. Hierarchical position matters. Nest placement choices among cavities, reeds, cliffs, or ground scrapes reflect trade-offs between concealment and accessibility to food. Location determines risk. Environmental context guides selection. Strategy balances needs. Nesting reflects adaptation. Learning allows birds to alter foraging strategies when prey behavior or availability changes. Flexibility improves success. Experience guides adjustment. Adaptation maintains efficiency. Behavior evolves with environment. Tool use may emerge when ecological opportunity presents hidden or protected food resources requiring manipulation. Need drives innovation. Experimentation yields technique. Success reinforces habit. Environment fosters creativity. Parrots and corvids demonstrate high problem-solving ability through different evolutionary histories, showing intelligence can arise independently. Cognitive convergence occurs. Separate lineages develop similar skills. Comparison highlights diversity. Evolution explores multiple routes. Research shows neuron density and brain structure organization can support complex cognition even without large brain volume. Efficiency outweighs size alone. Neural arrangement matters. Performance depends on architecture. Biological design varies. Bird species often coexist by dividing resources spatially or temporally, reducing competition through niche partitioning. Different heights or prey sizes separate roles. Timing differences minimize overlap. Harmony emerges. Diversity thrives through separation. Seasonal environmental change alters bird location and diet patterns, explaining apparent disappearance or appearance across time. Movement tracks conditions. Adaptation follows cycles. Presence fluctuates. Observation depends on timing. Tracking flowering or fruiting cycles leads some birds to move regionally following plant resource availability. Plant phenology directs travel. Feeding synchronizes with growth. Mobility ensures access. Ecology links movement to vegetation. Birdwatching and ecotourism contribute economic value while fostering appreciation of natural systems. Observation generates income. Awareness increases conservation interest. Human connection deepens. Cultural services matter. Long-term monitoring reveals subtle environmental changes through bird population trends, often before other indicators. Data accumulation highlights shifts. Early detection aids response. Birds signal transformation. Observation supports stewardship. Umbrella species protection benefits many organisms sharing the same habitat. linking bird conservation to broader biodiversity preservation. Safeguarding one protects many. Resource management multiplies effect. Strategy extends impact. Conservation broadens scope. Nesting site availability can limit distribution even when food is abundant, especially for cavity nesters needing specific structures. Habitat structure matters. Resource alone, insufficient. Shelter defines range. Ecology constrains presence. Habitat restoration, such as wetland or forest recovery, often leads to rapid return of bird communities when threats are removed. Ecosystems respond quickly. Recolonization occurs. Recovery validates effort. Restoration proves effective. Adaptation to novel urban foods demonstrates behavioral flexibility, supporting survival in changing environments. Learning expands diet. Opportunity exploited. Adjustment increases resilience. Behavior tracks innovation. Maintaining landscape connectivity ensures birds can move safely among feeding, breeding, and resting areas. Corridors preserve access. Fragmentation disrupts travel. Planning restores flow. Connectivity supports life cycles. Standardized terminology and molt study allows scientists to compare plumage cycles across species accurately. Consistent language aids understanding. Research coordination improves. Knowledge accumulates. Classification supports science. Molt timing varies by latitude and climate, with tropical birds showing different patterns than temperate species due to resource consistency. Environmental context shapes schedule. Predictability differs. Adaptation localizes behavior. Geography influences timing. Some birds pause molt during resource shortages and resume later, showing feather replacement depends on energy availability. Physiological flexibility prevents harm. Growth waits until safe. Survival prioritized. Biology adapts pacing. During molt, birds may seek microhabitat, minimizing heat loss or overheating because insulation temporarily changes. Shelter selection compensates coverage gaps. Behavioral adjustment protects balance. Habitat use shifts. Maintenance influences environment choice. Flight research inspired by bird structures such as the alula informs aerodynamic engineering by demonstrating natural stall control solutions. Biology guides innovation. Observing nature aids design. Engineering learns from evolution. Knowledge transfers across fields. Study of avian respiration inspires biomimetic approaches in improving gas exchange systems through understanding unidirectional airflow. Efficiency insights apply broadly. Biology informs technology. Adaptation sparks invention. Science bridges disciplines. Bird vocal learning research informs neuroscience by modeling how complex communication skills develop and change through experience. Insights translate to understanding learning processes. Comparative study enriches knowledge. Behavior links species. Birds inform human science. Navigation research in birds models integration of multiple sensory cues into coherent movement strategies, offering insight into spatial cognition. Studying these systems clarifies decision-making. Biological navigation inspires technological solutions. Learning crosses domains. Movement science benefits. The ecological roles of birds' pollination, seed movement, scavenging, pest control demonstrate their contribution to ecosystem stability. Services connect species and environments. Stability benefits society. Biodiversity supports function. Birds anchor ecological processes. Across anatomy, behavior, and ecological function, Birds illustrate how evolutionary diversification creates numerous solutions for survival,